Okay, so I finished off the one row, all the way back and then across again of the green after I had unwoven the side green columns that were too tall, and then I added 7 rows back and forth of the silver. And you can tell if you've gone all the way back and across an equal number of times, because you can count the stitches on one warp and then count the stitches on the warp that is one of the warps that's directly next to that row that you just counted, and that way you can tell if you've actually gone all the way back across and you have 7 or an equal number of rows on both the front and the back of your weaving. Okay, I ended up running out of the weft, the silver weft, so I had to add some more. And if it turns out that one of your columns of one color is a little bit like off the pattern after you have unwoven it down, and so it doesn't actually follow the right pattern across, what you can do is just weave one more row on your column and then pull the weft down through, and then you can just keep going across. I don't know if that makes sense, but if you run into that problem, it will probably make sense. Okay, so I'm going to trim all of these weft ends, and I'm going to pull this down through. Trim it. Okay, and then I'm going to cut the warp. You want to have a decent sized tails here, because you're going to be wanting to finish that off. And I'm going to cut on this side. And in my next video, I will show you a couple of different ways to finish off your weaving. Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to finish the edge of your weaving. And this example is what's called a Philippine edge, because an author who is a really expert in rug weaving, Peter Collingwood, saw an example of this finish on a rug in the Philippines, and so he named this style a Philippine edge. And then below that I just did some overhand knots to secure it a little bit more, so I only did one row of that on this side. And I'm going to show you how to do that on this side, and you can choose to either do a second row of it. You can do as many rows of it as you have space to do if you want, or you can take a couple of the warp strands and tie an overhand knot. Okay, so we'll zoom in. And it's not a difficult edge to do, which is kind of nice. Okay, so you've got 3 strands here, and you take the third one, carry it over, and then you put it under both of those strands and pull up. Okay, and then you bring that one down. So now you have these 3 strands. You're going to discard that one, take this third one, do the same thing. Put it over and under that, and pull it tight. And then lay this strand down. Discard that. Take your next one, put it over the 2, move that up a little bit, over the 2 strands, and then under them and out that. Here's the little strand, and then you pull it snug. Okay, you put that one down, discard that thread. Now you've got these 2. Ugh, getting that tied up. Okay, over, under both, and through that opening, and pull it snug. Okay, now you'll continue doing that all the way across. Okay, this is what one row of the Philippine edge looks like when you're finished, and it's really really a cute little braid. And you can either, just leave it like this. You can tie overhand knots below each of these to secure it a little bit more firmly. If you're going to be using your weaving a lot, like as a coaster, and it'll have to be washed, or if you I don't know, make a small rug or something. This is pretty secure though, and if you want to have more than one row of this, you can either do the same thing on this side, which actually makes it kind of, you can see that on this edge it kind of goes in, and on this edge it kind of comes out, sticks out a little bit. If you just keep doing this the same direction, it will continue that angle so that your edge will be kind of like that. Okay, so you can either turn it over and do a row like this and then a row the other direction, or you can just go ahead and do a couple rows that make it angled. It's up to you. Okay, so this is the reverse side with the second row, and I'll flip it back over. This is what the front side looks like when you do a second row along the back. And you can trim these as they are. You can untwist them to make a fringe that looks kind of cool. It looks like this side, and then you can trim it either straight across, or you can kind of make it a little bit more natural. It's up to you. Welcome back. This edge for the for a weaving is called a Damascus edge, and it is also described by the author Peter Collingwood in his wonderful book, The Techniques of Rug Weaving. And I'll flip it over so you can see the other side, which doesn't have the ridge that the front does. So just if you're going to use this technique, know that on one side there will be a ridge. That's the side that you're working on, and on the opposite side it is more of a subtle edging. Okay, and this one is also fairly simple to do. I'm going to zoom in and show you, if you don't edge your weaving, the weft, which are the horizontal stitching or weaving, begins to kind of work its way down the warp. And so your weaving, even if you just have it hanging on the wall, will not be very sturdy. So it is important to finish off your weaving in some way, even if you just tie overhand knots, which are, you just take a couple of strands and you work it around and pull through like that. Okay. But it's not necessary to do that when you have another way. So in this approach, we work from right to left, and it's very similar to the actual knots that you make in the Philippine edge, but we're only using 2 strands at a time. And let me zoom out just a little bit so you can see a little more of it. Okay, so I take the strand on the right, cross it over the strand to the left, and then I just pull it through like that. Okay, and I just let that that strand go up. Okay, and then I have this strand is on the far right now, and I'm going to cross over that one. This edging is done in 2 stages, and this is the first stage, so don't worry, you're not going to be leaving these strands covering your weaving. And notice that I am not pulling the yarn so tight, like I'm tying my shoe or something, where I'm just cinching it down. That will wreck the tension that you have in your weaving. It won't lie flat. So you want it to be snug, but not cinched down tight. And this pulls that weft back where it needs to be. And pay attention to which strand comes next. It's easy to get mixed up, especially when some are sticking up and some are below because of that weft that's falling. I mean, it won't be the end of the world if you are out of order. It just won't be as neat of a, kind of a tidy, uniform edge. You'll just have a little bit of a wobble in the pattern. Okay, so go ahead and finish that all the way across, and you can kind of notice if some of your stitches are a little bit looser than others, and tighten those up, and kind of try to make them as even as you can. Okay, so when you finish this first stage, you'll have one last strand that's hanging down, and all the other strands will naturally lay up across your weaving. So now what you do is you spin it around. So you have this one up there. Okay, so to start out, take the yarn that's sticking up, come around, like so, and you're just going to do the very same thing, laying the yarn across in front of it, of the strand that's directly to the left, and bringing it back up through. And this time when it lays up, it's actually laying the direction that you want it to. Take the strand that you were just using, lay it across. It's kind of like a backwards 4. And work your way. Across. You can adjust the tension a little bit as you're working to try to make all of the knots fairly uniform. Okay, so that is the second row across, and if you'll notice on this side, these last 3 strands are a little bit unruly, and I mean, this is not a huge problem, but with this style of finishing, the last 3 strands are just a little bit, they don't lay quite as flat as the others. So what I do is I take those 3 and I just do a regular braid. Maybe I should show you how to do that in case you have never braided anything. I just take this right one, put it under the middle one, take the far left one. Wait. When I try to explain it, I have a hard time. Okay, so yeah, back under. Okay. Yeah, like that. So I just keep going over the center strand always goes over, and I alternate the sides. Well, that's kind of funny to try to explain something that you just do automatically. Okay, and so it's just kind of a little braid, and then I do an overhand knot. Make sure you pull all 3 strands through, and pull it tight. And see, then it'll lie flat. Then I take the scissors and trim the fringe however long I want it to be. And you can either leave it like this, or you can untwist the yarn and separate the strands. And I kind of like this look. It just looks kind of wavy and fuzzy. Or you could alternate. You know, you could do one like this, leave one, unwind the next one, you know, if you want some variety. So it would look kind of like that. Anyway, it's up to you. Oh, and you can save this these little scraps of yarn and use it to fill soft sculpture like amigurumi or anything like that.